Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about mana stacking Shaman. So a few days ago, we found the Runeseeker's Call wand, and it was quite the procedure and pretty damn cool. I already had another build planned, but after that, I had to give it a try. It turns out this wand has some intricacies that make it quite interesting, especially on a Shaman which has bonded modifiers. In case you guys don't know what that is, every rune intrinsically has a bonded modifier that gets added on top of what it already does. And Runeseeker's Call gives you 200% increased effect of sockets, which counts for those bonded modifiers. A perfect mind rune on a wand gives you 90 mana, but it also has a bonded modifier of 5% mana, which then gets turned into 15%. If you've never played a Manastacker before, getting percentage can be really tough. You get a little bit on rings, a tiny bit on amulet, 8% from the passive tree, and that's almost about it. Pair that with the Legacy of Lifesprig, which gives +2 to socketed spells, which you can get to +6, and you have an absolute powerhouse baseline of a spellcaster. Disclaimer, this build is very high investment and this whole package is very expensive, and it's mostly for people who want to aspire towards something. So if you're planning to play a lot, then this is something you can work towards, especially if you want to upgrade your Oracle Spell Totem build, because you can just respec from Oracle into Shaman, and I'll show you what this is all about. So it starts with this wand I talked about, and you can see down here the bonded modifiers, and they come from this point right here, Wisdom of the Magi, and it is quite a big deal. It doesn't just give you mana here, which this is 15% mana and plus 270 mana each, which if you can look right here, 10,400. If I unequip it, I go down to less than half. That on a build with Archmage is a big deal. But it doesn't just stop there, because you can also use Wrath Pith Globe. And you know this item is a Lifestacker item, but you can use a Vile Cultivation Orb to get several modifiers that give you non-channeling spells have critical hit or spell damage per mana instead. And the big thing about this is people already use this on Mind Over Matter, but there is this annoying line, right? Non-channeling spells cost an additional 6% of your maximum life, which is a Mind Over Matter build or like a mana build is extremely hard to sustain. However, you do not have to pay this on totems, turns out. It works kind of like Archmage. So you can see right here, I'm just spamming away my totems. I'm barely losing mana and I'm losing no life. And speaking on life, and this is funny because this item did not exist when we started the league. The first one got found on day 7. And then there's another gem that did not exist on league start, which is now added to the game. It's Yuri's Communion a few days ago, right? And this lets you reserve life instead of spirit. So what it lets you do is reserve another free aura. And for a build that converts 100% of damage taken to mana before life, you can go as low as you want and all your damage will be taken from mana. And in this case, what I'm getting for free is an Archmage with Clarity 2 with her Declaration. Just like that. Going back to the bonded modifiers though, there's a little bit more to it and why it fits extremely well into totems. So you're not paying Archmage, you're not paying Wrathpith, but on top of that, one of the bonded modifiers on cost efficiency, which you kind of want anyways, is meta skills have increased reservation efficiency, which stacks additively with this node right here. And what it does is it reduces the amount of spirit you reserve with Ancestral Bond because Spell Totem is, once again, a meta gem. And so with 224 spirit, I can reserve 4 totems. And going back to low life, the fact that we're low life gives us a few extra things. First, we can use Tekrod's Gaze, which gives us movement speed when on low life. And we can stack this with the movement speed, which is usually limit 1. This one's also limit 1. You can combine them. And then you can get an effect of increased effect of socketed augment items. And in total, these 2 implicits now give me 24% move speed. 2 other things being low life lets us do is first the execute support, which gives us a ton of extra damage. On average, it's around 44% more damage. Unconditional, completely ridiculous support gem that you can now use. And you can use Pain Attunement, which is 30% more critical damage when on low life, and that comes out to around 20% more damage on this build. Now, since our mana cost is so manageable, I can also just go Eldritch Battery, and it's not really going to be an issue. And on top of that, I'm actually going to go for Cloak of Defiance. So the reason I am converting damage is taken from mana before life with normal ways and not with Mind Over Matter is I did not want the 50% less mana recovery rate. Just so you're aware, I'm currently sitting at 10,400 mana. I could be on around 13 to 14k if I was willing to give up half of my recovery, but I'm not really. I might do this later. I still have a few upgrades to make, even though the build's already expensive. but right now I feel very comfortable at around 3000 mana recovery per second. On this version, I'm also rocking 111 movement speed, and that is because I invested into it. I take stuff like, for example, the Raven Touch tier, which lets you anoint your helmet. That lets me take Piercing Shot on the helmet, so I can take Gem Enthusiast on the amulet, which gives me 5% move speed, 5% mana. And everything is also Energy Shield focused because you convert that Energy Shield to mana with Eldritch Battery. Now, the damage taken from mana before life, I get 50% from my body armor, 15% from this rune right here, for a total of 65%. Then I'm getting 16% in total from these 3 nodes right here. I'm getting 16% from the Abyssal modifier on my ring. And then I'm getting 3% from this jewel right here. And just to be clear, if you don't have 100%, it's very bad because you need 100% because your life is extremely low. Now, I'll just quickly show you a normal map and how smooth this build is now. One of the things I was mostly surprised by is how fast of a clear speed build Totem builds can actually get because of a few things. So you have to think about how things were in the past. People were stacking reduced movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. So you could basically hold down Spark and just move around at the same speed while casting. But that is not a thing anymore. But while you're placing down your totems, which you can now walk while you're, so you can do this, right? Boom, boom, boom. You still move, but you can scale it further indirectly with placement speed. So in an endgame setup, once you craft, for example, diamonds, and you get, I don't know, another 100% placement speed, it will just get faster and faster. And it will quickly show you how fast the playstyle can actually be. You can just place them down. You can place them on the edge of the screen and everything just kind of dies. Now, the thing about Spark is it looks very nice, right? Like very neat. Everything dies. But it is deceiving in the sense that if you don't have the damage to back it up and the investment, it is better, in my opinion, to just go Grim Pillars, because Grim Pillars will one-shot these things just as much. It just comes with some clunk. So the way I see it is you're kind of buying into Spark. You're investing to eventually go for Spark, and sure, you could say, oh, but it's lined up for Lightning, so it's a little bit more synergistic with Archmage, but that doesn't really matter, especially when you have a Rakiatas Flame endgame. But you can see right here, I can literally stand in Explosions all day and just do whatever. I'll quickly show you a boss. All right, so I quickly opened Exile. I don't actually know what people do nowadays to test their single target damage. And I don't even have a weapon swap right now, but I'm just gonna show you what I currently have. Right now, I just put down my Sigil of Power. I spam some totems. I get stages. I put down the Thunderstorm at the end to get a little bit better shock, I guess. And it should deal more than decent enough damage. The only problem is you can't really pre-throw. But as you can see right here, there's never any problem to any, like, your HP is always going to be up. There's a few boss abilities that obviously can hit you through it. If you've farmed this before, you know that's actually worth a lot. Very nice. But yeah, this build is the real deal. It's like, it's one of those builds where you can invest infinitely. I mean, I can still invest thousands of divines into this build. Just keep investing, and it will never be quote-unquote enough. Now, is there currently something in the game that requires this? You've seen me one-shot everything in the game on Grim Pillars totems, so the answer is no, but I'm actually having a lot of fun just like fiddling around with stuff, trying out new items and whatnot. For gems, I'm currently not using the ability of the wand. If you've never seen it before, it's basically a walking calamity for spells because it drains my Archmage like crazy and it doesn't really add anything to the build. It's like an okay skill. I'm really just using it for the wand itself. So if you want to buy a corrupted one that is only level 19 like I did here, then that's good. Having the 6th socket, I know it's absurdly expensive, but it is a lot of extra mana. So like I said, everything in this build just screams investment, and the more you have, the better the build will get. Now, the amulet you can craft yourself if you want to with one of the new essences. The Essence of the Breach lets you have plus 20 to maximum quality on an item, and you can use that to get your plus 3 spells to plus 4 spells. I will link down below to a farmer video. He has a really good guide about this. Then on the Shaman itself, there's 2 really important mods. The first one is obviously the bonded one. To give you an idea, this around doubles my mana and gives me a ton of other small things. It's just completely ridiculous, and this node alone would make me still go Shaman even if I could only click this. That's how strong it is on this build. I get a little bit of Spirit because you might have noticed that it is pretty rough to get this Spirit without getting a Scepter, but Wrathpith Globe is just so crazy. It's like 9/10 of my damage. The build doesn't work without exactly this Wrathpith, and so I can't use a Scepter, so I had to get it elsewhere. And my body armor is kind of taken, although you can get a little bit. And then on your amulet, I get 45 spirit. I'm not using this one fully. I still have to use my Rite of Passage with Spirit of the Cat because it's just too crazy. 100% crit chance, 15% move speed, 30 skill speed. It's irreplaceable. But the other 2 charm slots I have closed for 80 spirit. And then at the end, this is a decision you can make between Reactive Growth and Avatar of Evolution, which are very defensive, and just going Rage. Now, these nodes are not crazy. I'm not doing anything fancy with Rage. Maybe I'll find something. It's 21% more damage for 4 Ascendancy points. It's okay at best. But the reason I didn't take the defensive nodes is strictly I just don't die. You just do not die with 10,000 mana with this kind of recovery. It is just barely possible. Now for the passive tree, I just bought my Voices. If you've never used this before, it basically gives you 2 jewel sockets for 1. With a little caveat, you cannot use any unique jewels in this. But yeah, I mean, it's just a straight up power creep. Way too expensive though. You should not be buying this until you have most of your characters set. I think they're like over 200 divines right now. Then you go all the totem nodes. I don't even have an offhand setup right now because I literally just made the build like a day ago. I have a From Nothing for Valpact. I really love this one. Most of the build is min-maxed around movement speed because I want to be very fast. I have a lot of placement speed, a lot of movement speed. So Momentum ignores all movement speed penalties from armor, which gives me like 7% movement speed back. If you don't know what the penalty is, it's from body armor and from shield. And it just nullifies that completely. And then 3% move speed, immunity to maim and hinder, usually some of the stuff that slows you down. And then just some movement speed notes. You can never have enough, especially when you're on the left side of the tree. And then I also have a triple Grand Spectrum. You can actually quality these this patch. There is a new quality for jewels. So if you, for example, look right here, this is called Refines Xoth Catalyst, and it qualities your jewels. And this one is, for example, for fire. And the Grand Spectrum jewels that give you resistances are all 3 elements. So you can use either one of them, get it from 6 to 7%, and then you can also corrupt it for 8%, which I have right here. And this just alleviates a lot of gear pressure, although with perfect gear, you would not necessarily need them. I have a Prism of Belief with +3 to Spark skills. This obviously depends on what skill you use. I just really like Spark in endgame. So that's about that. Now, why Spark over Grim Pillars? It's pretty straightforward. With this kind of investment into a build, the damage gets so crazy that you can just use the most comfortable skill. Spark is the best clear skill for these kind of totems, and Grim Pillars always leaves behind a little bit of something, and it's a little bit annoying here. It's kind of 2-button playstyle. In my opinion, if you really invest into a build, it should be super comfy, because why else are you even, like, why are you putting in the work to just make it annoying and then you have too much damage? You would rather just leverage that for more movement speed or a more comfortable playstyle. With that being said, this shell can be used for basically whatever you want, unless you need a different wand. For example, if you're a Power Charge stacker and you need Adonias for some reason, or you're some form of infusion stacker, then maybe not. But most vanilla skills you can use with the setup. It doesn't even have to be totems if you can somehow figure out the Wrath Pith recovery. With that being said though, I'm using a spell totem with Spark, Urgent Totem support, as much placement speed as possible for the clear speed, Arakiadas, Valentas Propulsion. We want to have as much cast speed as possible so we get projectile speed out of it, you know the gist. And then we can also use Execute 3 because we are on low life. This gives us straight up 30% more damage, and also whenever they are on low life, we deal another 30%. On average, this support is around 44% more damage. Now you might be wondering, why am I not using Pierce support? I wanted to move away from it because my support gems, my worst support gem gives me 44% more damage, which is crazy. So putting a Pierce in here would be a huge damage downgrade. So what I did instead, and it works extremely well, is I first get Piercing Shot Anoint for 50% chance to pierce an enemy, which, just to be clear, that is only one enemy. And then I get another up to 50% from Heart of the Well, which gives me 1 pierce. So you still have the shotgun capability on single target. But on top of that, if it's denser, then I also have this extra chain right here. So first the pierce would resolve, and if I never hit a second enemy, the chain will just poof. But if it hits a second enemy, that means the map is probably dense and you also get the chain. And this has been working like a charm, and I actually like it more than the Pierce setup, because the Pierce setup also, like I said, takes away a support gem. Overall, I really like this bonded modifier shaman setup. It's one of those things that you can only do on that Ascendancy, and it just makes a lot of sense. I love the new Runeseeker's Call weapon. I love the new Manastacker identity, also being able to go low life. So I just wanted to put this video out to give you guys a little bit creative juices, maybe try something out on your own. And yeah, so totems are definitely endgame viable. They're in fact absolutely cracked in Path of Exile 2. And with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.